when you're looking at the rhetoric that's being dispersed within society today, there are many people that are looking at what you just said, all right, or just basically the tenets of what you actually just read the quotes of, and they're not viewing themselves as embracing that. They're basically saying, no, I think that that is just trying to take my emotion of feeling a sympathy or empathizing with certain types of racial injustice within society, and that's being taken and put into some type of like a really theoretical box. How would you describe that? People are saying, I don't even know what CRT is. How can you describe me in that manner when it's something I just learned of within the last 12 years?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think a lot of people say that. They say, well, wait a minute, I've never even heard of CRT. I haven't read any of these authors. How could I possibly embrace it? And I think a good analogy would be something like, say, the prosperity gospel. You don't learn this prosperity gospel necessarily from hearing certain preachers or reading certain books. Where do you hear the prosperity gospel? Well, you probably just get it from like just the being surrounded by a culture that's very materialistic. Maybe you have heard preaching that actually taught that, but they didn't give that label to it. So these ideas are kind of floating around in the ether. You heard it on the radio, but you never gave it a name. So in the same way, I think it's more likely that you picked up these ideas from, say, a book club or from social media or from a class in your sociology department in college than from reading, say, Crenshaw or Delgado or Gotanda, right? So people should be careful. Just because you haven't heard of the label or you haven't read these authors does not mean you don't subscribe to these ideas, because it doesn't matter what you call this discipline. What matters is the ideas themselves. If you want to label it cultural Marxism, you want to label it identity politics, you want to label it CRT, the label is immaterial to the claims being made. And I want to look at the claims themselves because I think they're wrong and they're actually deeply corrosive.